Hello and welcome to Rule of Carnage. This is a podcast, and in this podcast, we talk about the designing of better miniature games. From time to time, we actually design miniature games ourselves. We've both been designing some miniature games recently, and I would like to ask Glenn the question that we ask each other every so often on this channel, which is, Glenn, what you're working on?
So currently there's a couple of projects like front burner. I don't even say back
Front burner, yeah.
front burner things. I've got a
Right
couple
in front of the burning engine. Yeah.
yeah, I've got a couple of things front burner that I've been like really focused and working on. Um Other
Things
than
with deadlines or things that have just captured your imagination?
one sort of so I mean currently I guess there's like because currently at the moment Boards and Black Flags I'm
Soon
basically
to be coming to Kickstarter.
soon to be coming to Kickstarter. At the moment, I'm trying to like track down some people to give some independent reviews.
All right. At
Um,
this point, every time you mention Borders and Black Flag, you should add on the graphic over it because wink.
Probably
Start the promotion early. Yeah.
yeah,
So you're okay. So you're currently in like you're past the point of working on that game from a design point of view, but you are currently working on it from a sort of fishing around for promotional reviews and such like.
yeah. It took me a little while to like for various reasons between getting the terrain MDF laser cut. So I wanted to put together some like sample packages for reviewers, and I wanted to include a set of the terrain,
Yeah.
a couple of sets of the minis, and a copy of the book.
Cool.
And the terrain took a while, and then for some reason, my people I used to do my graphic design for me, which is really just a sort of typesetting service, for whatever reason, were quite slow on putting the book together. And so I only just like got sample copies of it ready for Salute. So I've been sort of put back a little bit on having things to send out to reviewers. So I'm sort of doing that now. But that's sort of gonna be sitting for however long it takes me to get at least a couple of reviews, and then is when I will launch that on Kickstarter. I'd like it to be before UKGE, but if it isn't, it isn't, and I'm fine with that.
Mm.
So there's not been a lot of like design juice in working on that at this point. It's pretty locked down.
But a lot of production and pre-launch marketing
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, fiddling and faddling with that sort of thing. At the moment, like design wise, there are two things I'm sort of working on, like significantly. There's what at the moment I think I might have as like a Kickstarter for next year,
Ooh.
which is a thing called Dauntless, which has gone through a few sort of versions and iterations. And I'm finding very sort of interesting and fun at the moment. And talk about that in a second. And the other thing is that I've been working on a thing called Blackheart for one of our Discord members reached out saying that there was a paying gig available for someone to edit and develop their game, and
Awesome.
you know, paying gigs are a good thing, and it's an interesting game. So that's
And a rare thing, gentle listener.
yes. And so I've been working on that a fair bit. So I suppose those are the things I will chat about as the things I'm working on.
Very nice.
Um,
And did you get involved in the one page piece jam per chance?
I've got a thing up for One Piece Peace Jam, like a a game about moving around a page and touching letters,
Mm.
and coming up with words. And it's literally you print out the rules and then play on the rules and then cross the rules out as you play. Just because whenever there's a one-page jam, I want the one page to be a thing that you use. So I did one previously where
Conceptual continuity.
yeah, well, I did one previously where the corners of the page were a template that had to be used, and you had to get under
Mm.
the corners in order to like power up your abilities. And this one, yeah, you sort of move around it. I haven't got it to the sort of playtesting table, but
Right. So that's not on the front burner, sort of.
no. I mean, I think it'll only take a few. I'm not being dismissive, but it's a one-page, free jam.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Like the fun part of those kinds of jams is uh, taking exactly the amount of time that is fun for you to work on it, and not
Yes,
stressing about whether you spent the right amount.
and it's a very sort of high concept game, which I think is also I like doing for that sort of one. And also I had a bit of fun because I've never just gone into like Inkscape and gone on a block of text as like converted to an image and then just wonked around a block of text, because the idea of the game is you're moving between and around the bits of text. So I wanted there to be enough space for a mini to like fit in between bits of text that there wasn't enough space for. So I made the text curve and just had fun mucking around with the
Right.
with that. Um, so yeah, so Dauntless is a thing that started off quite a while ago now. As it was called for a while ELE for Extinction Level Event, and at that point it was a sort of zombie post-apocalypse thing. So
Mm,
there weren't any actual zombies, but it was basically Walking Dead. Um, and that was partly like reading I don't know if I've mentioned Dauntless before, but like reading things like The Walking Dead is meant to be the ongoing story of survival horror. It's meant to be
yeah.
the thing that happens after the movie ends, and it sort of goes on constantly. Um, and I wanted to sort of design a game that was that, um, but also that in a way that the various like post-apocalyptic zombie minis games that I've read and played absolutely are not. And so there were two sort of central ideas to that I wanted to play with. One is like a lot of these sort of post-apocalyptic games, you know, particularly the zombie ones, you have a campaign system where the guy who is the leader because he is called the leader and has leader stats and is just the leader. And what happens in like, you know, survival style TV shows is that the leader is the leader because the most people support and connect with him, and he
Mm,
builds relationships with those people, and it's an evolving ongoing thing that you can sort of, you know, gain or lose, and you have to consider who you take like on
mm,
missions with you because those are the people you'll sort of build a bond with. And so because of that, the game has this sort of relationship system built into the campaign where like if a particular character goes on a mission with somebody else, they build a stronger bond. And if somebody other than your leader has a stronger bond to more people than your leader, they become the leader, and
mm,
you'll like take some losses. So you have to like manage who goes on what mission at one point through the campaign. Um, and in addition, like if you're running to help somebody you have a strong bond with, you'll run faster and you'll fight harder and you'll care more. And the more somebody you when somebody dies, the more you care about them, you know, the more a particular character cares about them, the more it hurts that character, and the more detrimental it is to them, and the more it breaks their ties with the rest of the group, and etc. etc. Because
mm.
those are the things you see in things like The Walking Dead. You know, the more central to the group the person who dies is, the more it tears apart the rest of the group, and then it matters in the your effectiveness at going out and sort of scavenging supplies.
Mm.
So that's partly like, you know, I wanted to do this thing that really cooks the campaign into the on tabletop experience and really builds like those sort of long-term survival horror stories that I see on TV shows like that into the game, rather than just going, you know, roll a dice, survival horror happened. It's like it
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
actually in there
It strikes me the way that you've described it there. It evokes for me much more like role playing game sort of style mechanics. It's a while since I read Powered by the Apocalypse, not Powered by Apocalypse, Apocalypse World, but that has a similar ish relation, like that's a post-apocalyptic role-playing game with a relationship system built quite deeply into it, where you know the passions or the animosity between the characters in the group become like an important trigger for role playing and stuff. So not necessarily suggesting that there's things that you could nick, but it might be worth going and having a fresh look at that. But like the way that you framed that seems to me like it's very narrative and role playing in its sort of sensibilities. And the miniature element of that, we're not much of miniature role playing, but I did see a skirmish game a couple of days ago that was sort of advertised as it was advertising itself as a role playing game, even though it was clearly predominantly a skirmish game, but that's because it had very narrative intentions.
Yeah, I mean, I want it to have sort of strong narrative elements to it, but part of the thing that drives me is when the mechanics build the narrative and the role playing parts for me. The less interpretation there is, and the
Right.
more it's like, well, it's right there. I can tell that that guy cares more about that guy because look how
Mm.
he really like pegs it towards that guy when he's in trouble because that's his like blood brother, and I know why it's his blood brother because like last week they went into the field together and I watched it happen. I watched him save his
Mm.
life, those sorts of things. And I want the sort of those narratives to be like physically realized and physically rewarded, and mechanically realized sort of within the game rather than like it being an opportunity for role play. I want it to be more like the game is telling you a story that you are engaging with rather than you telling the game a story.
Yeah, and that from my perspective, it feels like you know the line to walk, and what I'm excited about with this is that it's not that like you want to cheapen the narrative fantasy elements by making them have mechanical systems on top. It's like, no, you want to cement and sort of scaffold and underpin like the narrative, because it's like there's non-diegetic elements that are sort of making that more true within the actual framework of the game. So the fantasy and the mechanics are supporting each other to sort
Mm.
of tell the same story.
Yeah, and then like I watched the first series of The Terror, the AMC survival. Well, I guess the first series was a sort of survival horror TV series, and that's a bunch of an expedition gets caught in the Arctic and they end up being hunted by a sort of maybe polar bear, maybe Wendigo kind of thing. But the point is, it's like they're caught in the Arctic and supplies are running low, and there are betrayals amongst the crew and whatnot. And around the same sort of time, I played a video game called Help Will Come Tomorrow, which is about a bunch of Russians whose train is attacked during the Russian Revolution, and they're caught in the Russian countryside trying to scavenge for supplies and not encounter revolutionaries.
Mm.
And then there was a game called The Pale Beyond, and so there was a lot of movies and games and things about people surviving in an Arctic wilderness. And I pitched the game to Osprey, and they were keen that it should have like multiple. You should be able to like put together the bits to be maybe you're a caveman in like a jungle, maybe you're an expedition caught in the Arctic, maybe you're in a post-apocalyptic zombie sort of apocalypse. And I sort of put that together for Osprey because that pitch went quite a long way before it sort of fizzled out. And then I'd sort of put together the bits for it to be an Arctic experience, and then I realized like the idea of the Arctic sort of version of it was more exciting to me.
Mm.
Currently, it's this version where you can be in the jungle or the Arctic, and there is some add-on like story things where you could put zombies in, or you could put like a big monster hunting you, and you can sort of put it together. And like the last few weeks, I've been realizing I just want to make it an Arctic survival
Hell yeah. Yeah, do that, man.
and then like maybe one day, and what I really sort of thought was what I want to do is Dauntless season one, and that's the Arctic, and
Mm.
one day do Dauntless season two, and that's
Mm.
like the
Whatever.
jungle or the
Yeah.
post apocalypse or whatever. And so I've gotten some minis together, and a board, and I'm starting to sort of put together and paint the minis for it, so I can get it played, get it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that like that Arctic scenario is so iconic that like
Mm,
there's so much great. I mean, you mentioned some of it, but like my mind is immediately going, Mansions of Madness, John
mm.
Carpenter's Thing, like the classic episode in season one of X-Files. Like there are so many great sort of trapped in the Arctic like it's a timeless tale because it's a horrifying place to get caught, and then it's
Yeah.
it's the opposite of like dark. It's pure white, and that's horrifying.
Yeah, like I've just gone and so I've got I printed off a set of minis, and interestingly, the only like suitable minis I could find on my mini factory were from a Mountains of Madness
Right,
campaign, like
that would make sense. Yeah,
set, and they
I
were.
have some. I have some similar painted up, but they're all from. Is it Bob Merch? The pulp minis,
Yeah, yeah,
beautifully lumpy guys in like Arctic parkas.
yeah. I went straight to my mini factory
Yeah.
because and I didn't want them to be too heavily armed. They're not really nice minis, and what I'm doing with them is I've sort of gone with the grey and the white spray, and I've got a pink and a sort of pale blue rattle cans, and I want them to have like a a sort of a side that's sort of pink and a side that's sort of blue, because you
Yeah.
get weird Arctic lights. And so I'm going to do that, and then sort of paint thin layers of paint over the top of that, try and get like a an effect of the Arctic shadows on them. And
Yeah, that sounds good.
I've also hunted out some polar bears and Arctic wolves and Arctic rabbits and such like for minis. So hopefully I'll be painting those in the next sort of few weeks and get that to the
So
tabletop.
will it have a supernatural element?
So what I want to do with it, and part of like the thing of reason for focusing it down, is like I want it to have a thing where, okay, here's the thing of surviving in the environment that you're in, and then you can choose to like add a specific threat to that that will make it, you're surviving this environment which is difficult and threatening enough if you're just playing, the Pale
I
Beyond.
see. So it's you against the environment is the default, and then you add maybe one bad guy, one like horror,
Yeah, well, it's
but it's not like a sort of D&D wandering monster encounter where like you're going to encounter six different eldritch horrors in your
no,
campaign.
I mean, because there's going to be like polar bears and wolves out there, and so it's like if you want to play Shackleton or Scott in the
Mm.
Antarctic, which I think is a fully valid thing and definitely fatal enough, for people. Obviously, for Scott,
I don't know how much combat between Bears and Scott's team there was. I'm going to assume quite a lot.
no, I mean, they spend a fair amount of time clubbing seals, so
That's true. Yeah.
and their relationship with eating or not eating the seals would have,
Yeah.
resulted in more success for them, and they certainly shot their own dogs, if not. Not the wolves, but anyway. So you can play it fully as just a straight up survival in the Arctic horror, and then if you want to be playing the terror, you can add in the sort of massive hunter thing. If you want to be playing a different, Mountains of Madness, etc., you can add something else, and that's part of like the focusing down, because what I realized was that by trying to let you be in the jungle or in the Arctic and with various sort of ways of putting it together, it was making it too difficult to make those specific threat options really narratively interesting and work with all the other mechanisms.
And I just think it's so much stronger as a pitch. It's so much clearer as a product. Like,
Mm,
I haven't played any of these games specifically, but I'm thinking of like Snarling Badger has a range of games that have got highly specific conceits. Is it like Death Ray Studios, the one that have like the Moon one and the
mm.
like they and as like a sort of Friday the 13th slasher sort of
Yeah, and like I
like
think Blacklight have got that sort of going on a bit.
right, maybe it's those guys actually that I'm thinking of. Yeah, it's Blacklight, and I like this idea that like for an indie game, you can pick a really like sharp conceit and just deliver that cool like genre experience
Mm.
and not have to build like a giant toolkit that, you know, can deliver all kinds of different experiences, because that way when you're standing in front of the booth and pitching it, you're like, yeah, this is like, you know, John Carpenter's The Thing, like the
Mm.
minis game or whatever.
Yeah, so I think I'm going to be going back and refocusing, like re-ratcheting that in to be a sort of sharper experience, but you know,
Mm.
actually getting it to the table and actually sort of play testing it. And that might be the thing I take to Kickstarter next year. I pitched it to a publisher who said that they would be interested in publishing it, but I don't know whether that'll go anywhere at the moment. So
Hmm.
there's that. That's one of the things I'm interested in enjoying working on.
Nice.
And the other thing, as I say, I've been working on is Blackheart, from a member of the Discord, Julian Thomas, who reached out looking for some support for somebody to sort of edit and put together. And what I've been doing,
Sweet.
like,
And what, so I guess I'm interested, like, what would be your pitch of the game, and like, how did he pitch it initially, and how has it changed?
so it's there's so Julian has a couple of comic books that he's
Sweet.
put together. He, you know, there are sort of pre-existing series, and fundamentally, the game is the game of those comic books.
Nice.
So it has a very, very rich world already, which
Mm.
is lovely. It's nice to sort of be able to connect
I'm
to the.
super jealous of game designers who can also draw.
Yeah, no, yeah. Every time, like one of the things that brought me back to Dauntless is that one of the guys in the Discord literally just put up, "Does anyone want some art doing for a project?" And I was like, I mean, yeah, if you're literally just offering art, you know, I'd love you. This is a thing that I think is quite sort of
Mm.
has a strong vision to it, and so he's been doing some art for that. That's made me want to go back to it, which has been absolutely brilliant.
Hooray.
But yeah, so Blackheart has like this whole like pre-existing world. Um, and so it's got a few things going on. It's close. It's down what I would call the sort of Infinity Malifaux end of the sort of skirmish game. You know, a level of sort of complexity to it, and hope
Hmm.
of rewarding complexity.
Lots of
Um,
juicy tactical stuff going on.
yeah. It's a cyberpunk sort of
Hmm.
cyberpunky sort of sort of theming world. And so yeah, you know, he sort of asked if somebody was willing to sort of go over and work it through, and I've been first of all sort of editing for clarity, and now and sort of editing for content. And then once everything's sort of in line in the way that I think that, you know, it sort of it needs to be to sort of have the coherence necessary. Then we're going to move on to a sort of a more developmental stage of figuring out some units and scenarios and things.
Right, right,
Um,
right. Start to build some of the longer term gameplay stuff.
yeah, it's actually it's a lot of fun because like I think at the moment my own designs I want them to be like a single thing. Um, and what Blackheart has like a few different ideas that, you know, when I first sort of started looking at it, meshed to some degree or another, and had like strong potential and stuff. And I'm going in and sort of doing the engineering of getting these things to sort of click together and the cogs to work. And it's a lot of fun, sort of going, okay, we'll make this engine work, and now I've got an engine and we can play with the engine. I don't know that I would have sat down and written that engine. I don't know that I'm currently interested in making that design from scratch, but like, you know, most of the parts are here, and you know, we need to sort of polish up some of the cogs and take out some of the springs.
Right, so you got like quite a small specific part of the problem, but like kind of a fun one for you to try and solve.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's like at the moment there's sort of, and I think this is the thing that comes up with like quite a few earlier designs. There's a certain amount of like overlap in some of the systems. So one of the first
Right.
things I was doing is like, okay, these three things do basically the same thing. We can make it one thing, and make it, a bit more elegant, and also going through and going, okay, this is an exception rule. Let's get rid of exceptions. Let's get rid of overlaps, and then when we've got fewer systems, we can make those systems a bit sexier. And it's an interesting system generally, because it's got like the sort of the interrupts and such of Infinity, and it's card driven like Malifaux. And so there's the option to have like hands and hand reactions and card reactions. And so because it's a sort of cyberpunk thing, there's like relatively normal physical actions which run through like one resolution system, and then there's like quantum reactions. So somebody can take an action and somebody else can react to it. Like you can run, somebody can shoot at you, and then somebody like a weaver can do like weird fuel abilities and weaving abilities to sort of cut in and alter a reality around the bullet or whatever else it is. And those have different resolution systems and timing systems. And
Right, but
that.
it's kind of baked into the conceit that they're happening at different like planes of reality, so you can kind of map it in your head, even though that sounds like a kind of complicated multi-level resolution system. But like, okay, I can see that this is like I'd have to move somewhere to get this reaction, whereas this is I just like do some spellcraft or go into hack the matrix.
And one of the things that I think that's interesting, and this is the thing that sort of Julian had there from the start, is that there's two, so physical actions that you perform have a sort of spread of cards that you sort of lay out and try and get to a certain number to achieve a sort of a target number, and then anybody reacting to it has their own spread, and if they get to a higher target number, they act before or after you. Whereas the sort of the quantum abilities are done with a sort of Magic the Gathering style stack, where like last card in is first card out. And at first, it feels like when I first heard that, I sort of thought, well, you got these two resolution systems. Is it a bit confusing? Is that a bit clunky? But in a weird way, I think like conceptually having these two completely different speeds of action have two different but recognizably similar, because you're still using cards to get to a higher number, resolution systems, is actually quite effective in allowing you to like map them out as different from each other but related within the game.
Right, they're like conceptually orthogonal.
Yes, so it's like I understand that the things in the stack always happen before the things in the spread because they're different, but they relate, but they affect each other because they're also the same.
Oh,
And
right, yeah. So it's almost like you're looking at a graph, and it's like, well, I have to eat down the y-axis until I get to the x-axis, and then I need to run down the x-axis.
yeah. So I think there's like good, there's some good fun potential in it, and we're sort of
Nice.
getting to the point of I'm getting to the point now of like being at where we're starting to add bits in instead of me taking bits out, which is
Always a fun moment.
the fun and exciting bit. So there's going to be some jollity there, and I'm looking forward to sort of digging into the faction system where you can start, making up like bullshit actions and powers and stuff like that, because that's always
Putting in all the exceptions that you took out.
yeah. Well, putting in the exceptions in the right place. This is an
Yeah.
important. This is an important rule, actually. Like, you don't want exceptions within the core system of the game. Those uh, get horrible. You want exceptions within the special abilities of your units, because those are, yeah, you can't do this, but I can because I'm a sexy badass. So it's like exceptions aren't necessarily bad, but they need to be in the right place and at the right time. So yeah, so that's those are the good fun things that I'm squirting creative juices at the moment.
Very
Uh,
jolly.
rather
I'm going
than
to use that phrase again.
rather than spreadsheet mashing for SSO or waiting on reviewers for boards and black flags.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good fun. I'm enjoying it, and I'm having a good time at the moment with designing and things. And once I can, because I was talking to Mike earlier, I've had the bits of a mansion on my painting table now for like 3 months or something. And I want to get this. I've got this massive mansion that I started for what was going to be doing Whatcha as a design. And it's taken forever just slogging through it. And I'm genuinely excited to get it off my table and get some Arctic miniatures on there and have fun, like doing something artistic with painting rather than using a 2-inch wide brush to do brickwork endlessly. Just what it feels.
Once you finish painting the giant mansion, do you think you'll get back to what ho, or do you think you'll start pushing
If,
around other things inside it and come up
if
with new?
every couple of days I've been sitting there staring at the mansion and the doors of the mansion and muttering to just like sitting there for like 15 minutes muttering to myself because I really want to do something with it. And I think like I see so many like SDL projects for like detailed internal terrain because of RPGs. I understand it's
Mm.
because of RPGs, but there's a lot out there and they're all really beautiful. And I'm sure a lot of minis gamers have them or want to print them. And so few games take proper advantage of them. But the more I look at this mansion, the more I think, yeah, I know why they don't take proper advantage of them because it's an absolute ball ache to sort of design and make work. But I
So
want to.
the problem that you have said is that even though even though the house is really massive, it feels quite small internally. I wonder, this might be a bad idea, but I do wonder if you use 10 mil figures and make it like a sort of nutcracker situation where like the toys have come alive, or it's like, or like there's that trilogy of terror with Karen Black where there's like a little voodoo doll running around. Like maybe you could deliberately use underscaled miniatures, which gives you more space, but then also becomes like a hook for some like, why is the doll's house filled with dolls that look like dolls inside the doll's house?
Possibly. I mean, I keep looking at it, and it's like the problem with it is you can't like fit multiple miniatures into a single room and have them have like meaningful spatial
Right,
relations.
they're either in the room or they're not, at which point you're basically on a cardboard board.
You're basically playing a board game. But the more I'm looking at it, like because you've got these multiple floors and you've got this open stairwell and you've got windows you can like physically see through to the outside. The more I'm looking at them, I'm sort of thinking there has to be something I can do something with this and I can make this work and I can make it work in a way that makes sense for a country house farce and whatever. I'm
Mm.
just going to need to like have it, lay it out, and stare at it for like 3 or 4 hours, mumbling in a pub.
I love that though, because I think one of the crucial parts of my process is assembling the toys required to play this game that I've got lodged in my brain, and then just playing with it. And there aren't even any rules. I'm just like pushing the things around and sort of trying to feel like, what would it be like to play this game in absence of knowing what the mechanics are? Like, what am I looking at, and where are things moving, and how does it feel to play this game? So I can definitely see that like, oh, now I've got it set up and now I'm looking from the garden in inverted commas up into the like first floor. Like, what does this feel like? And why is it interesting to move the model inside the house now? And
Mm. Yeah, no, yeah. I've got a handful of projects that might be the next project. So for the moment, it's that, or I want to get back to the that camera's eye game, and I also there's a game about gnomes hiking around your house that I genuinely want to sit down and do. So that one or another of those, but
did you see there's a really good Peace Jam one where you the more models you paint, the more your little miniature moves around your house?
I did
I really love it.
I did see that.
But like, if anyone in your house notices that there's a miniature like blue tacked to the underside of a shelf or whatever, then it dies and loses and gets eaten.
I did see that one, and it's very close to what I want to do with Gnome Hike. Only Gnome Hike is going to be more of a sort of a co-op uh,
Right.
version of that. But I did see that, and I thought like, yeah, I that's one of the ideas I've got kicking around to some degree. But yeah, so those are the things I'm working on at the moment.
Apologies to the person who wrote the painting Pilgrim. I've forgotten your name, but check it out.
I might try and put a link to it in the description. So go down into the descriptions where there's a bunch of links, one of which may be to Painting Pilgrim, certainly some of which will be to our project. Boards and Black Flags. Yeah, I'll put that. Boards and Black Flags will most certainly be one of those links. There'll be links across to our Discord, where you can come and chat to us about various games, and you can maybe ask one of us for a link over to the non-combat tabletop Discord, where they're doing a one-page piece jam. I think it will still be live by the time this comes up, but there's lots of fun.
Even if it's not, you can go and look at the wonderful things that have been made.
Yeah, you can certainly have a look at them, and I'm sure there'll be links to future jams in there. You can swing across the various places where you can buy our various games. You can go down to the comments section, and since I have talked to you about what I am working on, you can talk to us about what you are working on, and you can give us a like and subscribe. But for now, from myself and Mike in this episode of Rule of Carnage, it's going to be a thank you and goodbye. So thank you and goodbye.
Thank you. Bye bye.